r/confession. My coworker told 30 guests I was stealing, so I ruined her career. My coworker told 30 guests I was stealing, so I ruined her career. The champagne flute slipped from my trembling fingers and shattered against the marble floor of the Peninsula Hotel ballroom. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward me as Jessica's voice cut through the elegant murmur of the wedding reception like a serrated knife. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Wellington," Jessica said, her voice dripping with fake concern as she addressed the mother of the bride. "But I had to tell you, we've been having issues with missing silverware, and I just saw her stuffing pieces into her bag." The blood drained from my face. Every guest within earshot, doctors, lawyers, old money socialites who could make or break careers with a single phone call, was staring at me like I'd just confessed to murder. The bride's grandmother clutched her pearls. Literally clutched them. "That's not," I started, but Jessica was already moving, her perfectly manicured hand gesturing toward my event coordination bag like she was presenting evidence at trial. "The Waterford crystal dessert forks went missing last week at the Morrison anniversary party," she continued, her voice carrying just far enough to ensure maximum humiliation. "And now the sterling silver cake servers from tonight's setup. It's such a shame when people take advantage of trust." Mrs. Wellington's face had gone from wedding day glow to stone-cold disapproval in record time. Her husband, a prominent federal judge, was already reaching for his phone. My stomach dropped as I realized he was probably calling our boss, Richard. I'd been coordinating high-end events for Prestige Catering for 3 years. 3 years of 16-hour days, of managing bridezillas and demanding corporate clients, of building relationships with the kind of people who expected perfection and paid premium prices for it. 3 years of establishing myself in an industry where reputation is everything and one scandal can end your career permanently. And Jessica was trying to destroy it all in the span of 30 seconds. "Check her bag," someone whispered from the crowd that was forming. The wedding photographer had stopped taking pictures. Even the string quartet had gone quiet. My hands shook as I opened my coordination bag, knowing exactly what they'd find: event timelines, vendor contact lists, emergency sewing kit, antacids, and the sterling silver cake server that Jessica had undoubtedly planted there while I was dealing with the kitchen crisis 20 minutes earlier. The collective gasp when the silver caught the chandelier light was like a physical blow. Mrs. Wellington actually stepped backward, as if being near me might somehow contaminate her Vera Wang gown. "I didn't take this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Someone put it in my..." "Really, Sarah?" Jessica's tone was perfectly calibrated, disappointed but not surprised, like a parent catching their child in an obvious lie. Making excuses just makes it worse. The worst part wasn't the humiliation, though having 30 strangers look at you like you're common criminal while you're wearing your best professional dress definitely ranked high on the list of life's worst moments. The worst part was seeing the satisfaction flickering behind Jessica's concerned expression. She was enjoying this. I should have seen it coming. Ever since I'd been promoted to senior event coordinator last month, the position she'd been gunning for since she started 2 years ago, Jessica had been different. Colder. More competitive. But this? This was nuclear warfare disguised as workplace drama. As hotel security approached, their polished shoes clicking against the marble with funeral march precision, I realized something that would sustain me through what came next. Jessica had just made the biggest mistake of her professional life. She picked the wrong person to destroy. The security guards flanked me like I was about to make a break for the emergency exit with the hotel's entire silver collection. My phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, undoubtedly Richard calling after Judge Wellington's complaint reached him. Each vibration felt like a countdown timer to my career's detonation. "Miss, we're going to need you to come with us," the lead security guard said, his voice professionally neutral but his meaning crystal clear. I was being escorted out of the most important wedding of the season like a common thief. As we walked through the ballroom, the whispers followed us like a toxic cloud. I caught fragments: stealing, untrustworthy, who knows what else she's taken. Mrs. Wellington was already on her phone, probably calling every society contact in her extensive network. In the hospitality world, news traveled faster than wildfire, and scandal traveled at the speed of light. Jessica appeared beside us, playing her role perfectly. "I'm so sorry this happened, Sarah. I really hoped I was wrong about what I saw." Her voice carried just the right note of regret, but I caught something else underneath, a flicker of panic when she glanced at my phone, which was now ringing audibly. She hadn't planned on Richard calling this quickly. "I should probably speak to your supervisor," she said to the security guard, a little too eagerly. "To make sure we handle this properly for the company's reputation." That's when I realized Jessica's second mistake. She was overplaying her hand, inserting herself too deeply into a situation where an innocent coworker would step back and let management handle things. But Jessica couldn't resist the opportunity to twist the knife. The hotel manager met us in a conference room off the main lobby, and within minutes, Richard arrived looking like he'd swallowed broken glass. My boss was 62, impeccably dressed, and had built Prestige Catering's reputation on 25 years of flawless service to the city's elite. Having one of his coordinators accused of theft at a high-profile wedding was his worst nightmare made manifest. "Sarah, what the hell happened?" he asked, but his tone suggested he'd already reached his conclusion. Before I could answer, Jessica launched into her story. She'd been checking the gift table when she noticed me acting suspicious near the cake station. When she investigated, she saw me slip something into my bag. The missing silverware from previous events suddenly made sense, she explained with theatrical reluctance. "The Morrison anniversary party silver," Richard repeated slowly, and my blood turned to ice water. "Mrs. Morrison called yesterday asking about compensation for the missing pieces." Jessica nodded gravely. I should have said something then, but I didn't want to believe it. I kept hoping there was another explanation. I watched this performance with a mixture of horror and grudging admiration. She'd been planning this for longer than just tonight. The Morrison party theft wasn't opportunistic, it was groundwork. She'd been stealing items herself and creating a pattern that would make her eventual accusation more credible. "Sarah?" Richard's voice cut through my realization. "Do you have anything to say?" I looked at him, then at Jessica's carefully composed expression of disappointed concern, then at the security guards who'd already mentally filed this under routine workplace theft. The hotel manager was checking his watch, probably calculating how quickly he could get this drama away from his paying guests. "I want to see the security footage," I said finally. Jessica's micro-expression of alarm was so brief I almost missed it. Almost. From tonight, and from the Morrison party. All of it. Because if she'd been planning this long enough to steal items and frame me, she'd been planning long enough to make other mistakes. And Jessica, for all her cunning, had just revealed something crucial. She was too arrogant to be as careful as she thought she was. The hotel manager's expression shifted from mild annoyance to genuine concern. Ms. Chen, I'm afraid our security footage is only available to law enforcement or with a court order. Hotel policy. My heart sank, but Jessica's barely concealed relief told me everything I needed to know. She'd counted on this exact response. Of course, Richard said, rubbing his temples. Sarah, I'm going to have to suspend you pending investigation. You understand I don't have a choice here. Suspend me? The words came out sharper than I intended. Based on an accusation? Without any real proof? The proof was in your bag, Jessica said quietly, and I wanted to slap the fake sympathy right off her face. Proof that you planted there. The room went dead silent. Richard's eyes narrowed, and I realized I'd just escalated this from workplace drama to direct accusation. But I was past caring about professional diplomacy. That's a serious allegation, Sarah, Richard said slowly. Do you have any evidence to support that claim? I didn't. Not yet. But looking at Jessica's face, I could see she was calculating something. Her initial panic when Richard showed up early had faded, replaced by growing confidence. She thought she'd won. I think the evidence speaks for itself, she said, gesturing toward the silver cake server now sitting on the conference table like an exhibit. Sarah, I know you're upset, but making accusations against me won't change what happened. My phone buzzed with a text. Then another. Word was already spreading through our industry network, probably started by Mrs. Wellington's phone calls. I could practically feel my reputation disintegrating in real time. Richard, I said, forcing my voice to stay level, I need 48 hours before you make any final decisions. Please. Sarah, I can't. 48 hours to clear my name. If I can't prove my innocence by then, I'll resign quietly. No lawsuit, no drama, no more embarrassment to the company. Richard exchanged glances with the hotel manager, who clearly wanted this entire situation to disappear. Jessica's confident expression flickered. She obviously hadn't expected me to negotiate. And if you can't prove anything? Richard asked. Then I'm gone, and you never have to worry about me again. It was a massive gamble. If I couldn't expose Jessica's scheme in 2 days, I'd be voluntarily destroying my own career. But something in her reaction when I'd mentioned the security footage told me she wasn't as untouchable as she believed. Fine, Richard said finally. 48 hours. But you're suspended without pay until this is resolved. And Sarah? If you're wrong about this, if you've actually been stealing from our clients, I'll make sure every catering company in the city knows exactly why you were terminated. The threat was clear. In hospitality, Richard's word carried weight. If he blacklisted me, I'd be lucky to get hired organizing children's birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese. As we left the conference room, Jessica caught up to me in the hotel lobby. The wedding reception was still in full swing 3 floors above us, but down here, the marble columns felt like a mausoleum. Sarah, I hope you know this wasn't personal, she said, her voice pitched low and concerned in case anyone was listening. I just couldn't stay quiet when I saw what I saw. I turned to face her, noting how she positioned herself near the lobby's security camera, playing the role of the reluctant whistleblower even now. You're right, Jessica. It wasn't personal. I smiled, and something in my expression made her take a step back. It was business. Your business. And now it's mine. I walked away, leaving her standing under the chandelier, and for the first time since that champagne flute shattered, I felt like I could breathe again. Because Jessica had made a third mistake, she'd given me 48 hours to destroy her. The elevator ride to the parking garage felt like descending into hell. My hands were still shaking as I fumbled for my car keys, and every echo in the concrete structure sounded like another nail in my professional coffin. 48 hours. It sounded like forever and no time at all. I was halfway to my apartment when my phone rang. Mom's ringtone. Sarah, honey, I just got the strangest call from Patricia Morrison. My stomach dropped. Mrs. Morrison, whose anniversary party had been Jessica's proving ground for tonight's setup. She said there was some confusion about missing silverware at her event, and now there's been an incident at the Wellington wedding? The hospitality world wasn't just small, it was incestuous. Everyone knew everyone, and apparently Mrs. Morrison and my mother served on the same charity board. Perfect. Mom, I can explain. Patricia seemed to think you might have been involved somehow. I told her that was absolutely ridiculous, but she sounded quite concerned about the family's heirloom pieces. Heirloom pieces? The Morrison anniversary had featured the family's inherited silver service, pieces worth tens of thousands of dollars. Jessica hadn't just been stealing random silverware, she'd been targeting irreplaceable antiques. The scope of her scheme was larger than I'd realized. I need to go, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow. Sarah Elizabeth, don't you dare hang up on me. What exactly is happening? But I was already disconnecting, my mind racing. If Jessica had taken heirloom pieces from the Morrison party, she couldn't have sold them easily. They'd be too recognizable, too traceable. Which meant she was either sitting on stolen antiques or she'd found a very specific buyer. Or there was a third option, she'd never intended to profit from the thefts at all. Maybe the stolen items were just props in a longer game to frame me. My phone buzzed with a text from my work friend Maria. Asterisk girl, what the fuck happened tonight? Rich is calling emergency staff meeting for tomorrow morning. Everyone's talking. Asterisk. Another text, this one from David in our marketing department. Asterisk just saw something on EventPro gossip forum about Prestige. Is that you they're talking about? Asterisk. EventPro. The industry's unofficial social network where gossip spread like wildfire. My career was being dissected in real time by people I'd never met, based on Jessica's carefully crafted narrative. I pulled over and opened the app with trembling fingers. The thread was titled Prestigious Problems at Peninsula Hotel and already had 43 comments. Heard it was one of their senior coordinators caught red-handed with the silver. Not surprised TBH, those events have so much expensive stuff just lying around. My cousin works at Peninsula Security, said she tried to deny everything even with proof in her bag. Asterisk Richard must be dying. His reputation is everything asterisk. Asterisk who was the coordinator though? Anyone know? Asterisk. The last comment made my blood freeze. It was timestamped 3 minutes ago, from a user called EventInsider22, asterisk Sarah Chin. Used to work Morrison events before this. Makes you wonder what else she's taken over the years. Asterisk. Jessica. It had to be. She was actively participating in the destruction of my reputation, feeding information to keep the story alive and growing. But that username, EventInsider22. Something about it nagged at me. I screenshotted everything, then started going through EventInsider22's comment history. The account was only 6 months old, but it had been consistently posting insider information about various catering companies around the city. Staff changes, client complaints, vendor issues, things only someone with industry connections would know. And then I found it. A comment from 3 months ago about Prestige's spring menu changes, asterisk heard they're dropping the truffle risotto. Client feedback was mixed after the Hartwell corporate dinner. Asterisk. The Hartwell corporate dinner. Jessica and I had been the only coordinators present when the client gave that feedback privately to Richard. She'd been using this account to spread industry gossip for months, building credibility as a reliable source. My phone rang. Richard's number. Sarah, we have a problem. I just got off the phone with EventPro's founder. Apparently, there's been online discussion about tonight's incident, and some of the details mentioned weren't public knowledge. Someone with inside information is feeding the story. Richard, I think. I'm not finished. Mrs. Wellington has also been in contact with 3 other potential clients, warning them about security issues with our staff. The Hammond wedding next weekend is reconsidering their contract. That's a $40,000 event, Sarah. The weight of it hit me like a physical blow. Jessica wasn't just destroying my career, she was taking down the entire company to ensure I couldn't recover. Even if I proved my innocence, the damage to Prestige's reputation might be irreversible. You still have 48 hours, Richard continued, but understand that every hour this story stays alive costs us clients. Whatever you're planning to do to clear your name, it better be spectacular. He hung up, leaving me sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot at 11 p.m., holding the fragments of my professional life and trying to figure out how to turn Jessica's methodical destruction against her. But she'd made mistake number 4, she'd gotten greedy. And greedy people always left trails. I barely slept that night, my laptop screen burning my retinas as I dove deeper into Jessica's digital footprint. By 3 a.m., I'd mapped out EventInsider22's posting patterns, cross-referencing them with our work schedules. Every major piece of gossip the account had shared aligned perfectly with events Jessica had worked or meetings she'd attended. But knowing Jessica was spreading rumors online wouldn't clear my name. I needed something bigger. That's when I remembered the Morrison Party incident report. Every event required detailed post-service documentation, including any issues or missing items. If Jessica had reported the missing heirloom silver immediately, it would look legitimate. If she delayed reporting it, or if the timeline didn't match her story, it would expose her scheme. I logged into our company system using my credentials, praying Richard hadn't revoked my access yet. The Morrison event file pulled up, and my heart raced as I scrolled through the documentation. Jessica had filed her incident report about the missing silver 3 days after the event. 3 days. In our industry, missing items, especially valuable ones, were supposed to be reported immediately. The client should have been notified within hours, not after a long weekend. Even more suspicious, Jessica's original event summary, filed the night of the Morrison party, made no mention of missing items. She'd marked the event as flawless execution, no incidents. The missing silver report was an addendum, added later. I screenshotted everything, then dug deeper. Our system tracked all file modifications, including timestamps and user IDs. Jessica had accessed the Morrison event file 5 times over the past 2 weeks, far more than necessary for a completed event. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, asterisk, stop digging or things get worse for you. Asterisk. My blood turned to ice. I looked around my apartment, suddenly paranoid about who might be watching. How did Jessica get my personal number? And more importantly, how did she know I was investigating? Unless, I checked my laptop's network activity. Someone had remote access to our company system and could see who was logged in and what files they were accessing. It had to be someone with administrative privileges. Or someone who'd convinced IT they needed special access. I grabbed my phone and called Marcus, our IT guy, knowing he'd be up. He was notorious for his late-night gaming sessions. Sarah? It's like 3 a.m. Aren't you supposed to be in crisis mode right now? Marcus, I need to ask you something confidential. In the past month, has anyone requested special system access or asked you to track user activity? Silence. Then, why would you ask me that? Please. My career depends on this. Look, I probably shouldn't say anything, but Jessica came to me last week. Said Richard asked her to monitor system security, check for unusual file access patterns. She said there were concerns about information leaks to competitors. My hands started shaking again. Did you give her access? Admin monitoring privileges, yeah. She had Richard's approval code and everything. Wait, Sarah, why are you asking? Did she not have authorization? I hung up without answering, my mind spinning. Jessica had played everyone. She'd gotten IT access under false pretenses, which meant she could track exactly what I was investigating. Worse, she probably had access to delete or modify files if she felt threatened. But her text message had revealed something crucial, she was scared. Confident people don't send anonymous threats at 3 a.m. She was monitoring my activity because she was worried about what I might find. Which meant there was definitely something to find. I powered down my laptop and grabbed my car keys. If Jessica was watching the system, I'd have to investigate the old-fashioned way. And I knew exactly where to start, the Peninsula Hotel's vendor entrance, where all the catering supplies were loaded and unloaded. Because someone who'd been systematically stealing high-end silverware would need a consistent way to get those items off-site without detection. And hotel security cameras didn't just cover the ballrooms. The Peninsula Hotel's loading dock at 4 a.m. was a different world from the elegant ballrooms upstairs. Harsh fluorescent lights cast long shadows between delivery trucks, and the smell of industrial cleaning supplies mixed with lingering food aromas from the night's events. I sat in my car across the street, watching the security guard make his rounds, trying to build up the courage for what I was about to do. Breaking into a hotel wasn't exactly in my skill set, but I wasn't planning to break in, just to ask the right questions of the right people. The guard, a guy in his 50s with a weathered look of someone who'd worked nights for decades, was exactly who I needed to talk to. Night security guards saw everything and remembered details that management never bothered to ask about. I approached him during his next patrol, hoping I looked more like a concerned employee than a desperate woman who'd been up all night plotting revenge. "Excuse me," I called out, waving my prestige catering ID. "I'm Sarah Chen from the catering company. I was wondering if I could ask you about last night's event." He stopped walking and studied my badge with professional suspicion. "Bit late for follow-up questions, isn't it? There's been an issue with some missing items, and I'm trying to piece together the timeline." I pulled out my phone, showing him Jessica's photo from our company directory. "Did you happen to notice anything unusual about this woman's activities last night? She would have been going back and forth to the service areas." His expression shifted, recognition flickering in his eyes. "The blonde one? Yeah, I remember her. She made quite a few trips to her car during the event. Kept saying she was getting supplies from the trunk." My pulse quickened. "How many trips would you say?" "More than normal. Maybe 4 or 5? Most catering staff load everything in at the beginning and out at the end, but she was back and forth all night. Struck me as odd because she wasn't carrying much each time. Just a small bag." "A bag?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "Black leather thing, like a purse. She'd come out with it, go to her car, come back without it. Then an hour later, same routine." He paused, studying my expression. "This about the theft accusation I heard about?" Word traveled fast in hotel staff circles. "You heard about that?" "Lady, I've worked hotel security for 20 years. Rich guests love to gossip with the staff when they think we're invisible. Half the wedding party was talking about some catering girl getting caught with silverware." I felt heat rise in my cheeks, but pressed on. "The woman I showed you, Jessica, she was the one who made the accusation. Did you see her near the other staff members' belongings at any point?" The guard's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "You know what? Yeah. About 20 minutes before all the drama started, I saw her in the staff area where you all keep your coats and bags. Said she was looking for hand sanitizer when I asked." My heart hammered against my ribs. 20 minutes before she'd accused me, exactly when I'd been dealing with a kitchen crisis she'd conveniently created by accidentally knocking over a tray of appetizers. Would there be security footage of the staff area? Internal cameras, yeah. But like I told your boss and that detective earlier, we only keep footage for 72 hours unless there's a formal request." "Detective?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "About an hour ago. Detective Martinez from downtown. Came asking about the same woman you're asking about, actually. Seemed real interested in her car trips too." My stomach dropped. Jessica hadn't just stolen silverware, apparently someone thought this warranted a police investigation. Which meant either the value of the stolen items was higher than I'd realized, or there was more to this story. "What did the detective say exactly?" The guard glanced around, then leaned closer. "Look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but he mentioned something about a pattern. Said there'd been similar thefts at other high-end venues around the city, always with the same MO, someone with catering access, items disappearing during events, accusations pointing to other staff members. Jessica hadn't just been planning to frame me. She'd done this before." "Did he say which other venues?" "The Fairmont, I think. Maybe the St. Regis." The guard checked his watch. "Listen, I need to finish my rounds, but if you're trying to clear your name, you might want to talk to Detective Martinez sooner rather than later. He seemed to think your friend Jessica has been busy." As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number, * last warning. "Back off or everyone finds out about your gambling problem. *. I stared at the message in confusion. Gambling problem? I'd never gambled anything more significant than a scratch-off lottery ticket. But then the realization hit me like a cold wave. Jessica was escalating her lies, preparing the next round of accusations to discredit anything I might discover. She wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was going on the offensive. And if Detective Martinez was investigating a pattern of thefts, I was running out of time to prove my innocence before Jessica found a way to implicate me in crimes I'd never even heard of. I sat in my car outside the police station at 7 a.m., clutching a coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Detective Martinez had agreed to meet with me before his shift started, but now that I was here, the reality of my situation felt overwhelming. I was about to walk into a police station as a suspected thief, hoping to convince a detective that my coworker was framing me for a multi-venue crime spree. The detective turned out to be younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes that suggested he'd seen enough workplace drama to last a lifetime. His office was a cramped space filled with case files and the lingering smell of burnt coffee. "Miss Chen," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "I understand you want to discuss the Peninsula Hotel incident." "I want to discuss Jessica Morrison," I said, then caught myself. "Jessica Webb. She uses her maiden name professionally, but I think she might be related to the Morrison family somehow. The timing of those missing heirloom pieces." Detective Martinez held up a hand. "Slow down. Let's start with what you know for certain, not what you suspect." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots of Event Insider 22's posts, explaining how they aligned with Jessica's access to inside information. Then I detailed the timeline inconsistencies in her Morrison party report, the suspicious IT access, and the threatening text messages. "These texts came from an unknown number?" he asked, examining my phone. "Yes, but who else would know I was investigating?" "She's been monitoring my system access." Detective Martinez made notes but didn't seem as convinced as I'd hoped. "Miss Chen, I have to ask, have you had any financial difficulties recently? Gambling debts, credit card problems, anything that might motivate?" "No," I said firmly. "And that's exactly what she's planning to claim next. Look at this text." I showed him Jessica's message about the gambling problem. "She's building a false narrative to discredit me." He studied the message more carefully. "This is interesting. The other venues we've investigated, the Fairmont, the St. Regis, in both cases, the accused employee was discredited with personal allegations that turned out to be fabricated. Credit card fraud at the Fairmont, drug use at the St. Regis." My pulse quickened. "So you believe me?" I believe there's a pattern. But patterns don't prove innocence, Ms. Chen. They just suggest someone with a very sophisticated method. He leaned back in his chair. What I need is concrete evidence linking Jessica Webb to the thefts, not just circumstantial connections. That's when my phone rang. Richard's number, again. I have to take this, I said, but Detective Martinez shook his head. Put it on speaker. If this is about the case, I need to hear it. Richard's voice filled the small office, tight with barely controlled panic. Sarah, where are you? We have a massive problem. Mrs. Morrison called this morning. 3 more pieces of her family silver have gone missing from her home. She's saying they disappeared after your team did the inventory follow-up yesterday. My blood turned to ice. What inventory follow-up? Richard, I've been suspended. I haven't been anywhere near. Jessica went to the Morrison house yesterday afternoon with the insurance forms. She said you'd asked her to handle the documentation. Richard's voice cracked slightly. Sarah, Mrs. Morrison is talking about pressing charges for breaking and entering now, not just theft. She thinks you somehow got access to her house. Detective Martinez was already reaching for his radio. I could see him connecting the dots. Jessica hadn't just been stealing during events. She'd been using the theft reports as excuses to access clients' homes, expanding her operation beyond catering venues. Richard, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, check Jessica's schedule for yesterday. Check what time she clocked out, what vehicle she used, everything. I'm looking now, he said. There was typing in the background. She used one of our company vans. GPS tracking shows she was at the Morrison residence from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. yesterday. And where was she supposed to be during those hours? Detective Martinez asked, introducing himself. More typing. She was scheduled to be prepping the Henderson corporate lunch. But David covered for her. She said it was a family emergency. I watched Detective Martinez write warrant in large letters on his notepad. Jessica had finally made a mistake big enough to bring law enforcement fully into the picture. But as my phone buzzed with another unknown text, this one just a photo of my apartment building's entrance, I realized she wasn't done playing games. She knew the police were involved now. And she was escalating. The photo of my apartment building felt like a punch to the stomach. Detective Martinez saw my face go white and immediately asked to see my phone. When he saw the image, clearly taken from across the street, showing my building number and the entrance I used every morning, his expression hardened. Ms. Chen, do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight? Before I could answer, his radio crackled with an update from the Morrison house. They'd found Jessica's fingerprints on Mrs. Morrison's jewelry box in the master bedroom, a room that had nothing to do with retrieving silverware from the dining room. She'd been searching for additional valuables while supposedly documenting the insurance claim. We're issuing a warrant for Jessica Webb's arrest, Detective Martinez said, standing up from his desk. But I need you to understand something. She's escalating because she feels cornered. People like this don't go quietly. My phone rang again. This time it was Maria from work, and her voice was borderline hysterical. Sarah, please tell me you're not at the office right now. I'm at the police station. Why? Someone broke into our supply storage room last night. Trashed the whole place, and get this, they stole all the incident report files from the past 6 months. Richard is losing his mind because that includes documentation for ongoing insurance claims. Detective Martinez gestured for me to put the call on speaker again. Maria, what time did this happen? He asked. Security cameras show someone in a prestige uniform using a keycard around midnight. But here's the weird part, they knew exactly where to find the physical files. Everything else in the office was untouched. Jessica had been covering her tracks, destroying evidence that might connect her to other thefts. But she'd also just committed breaking and entering, adding another felony to her growing list of charges. There's something else, Maria continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. Richard got a call from the Fairmont Hotel this morning. Apparently, someone contacted their management yesterday claiming to be from our corporate office, asking questions about their catering theft incident from 3 months ago. They're wondering if we're investigating them for something. My stomach sank as I realized what Jessica was doing. She wasn't just destroying evidence of her own crimes, she was trying to implicate Prestige Catering in some kind of cover-up, making it look like our company had been systematically hiding theft incidents across multiple venues. Maria, did Richard say who made that call? A woman claiming to be from our legal department. But Sarah, we don't have a legal department. Detective Martinez was already on his radio, coordinating with other units. We need to find Jessica Webb now, he said. She's burning down everything behind her. That's when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against Detective Martinez's warning gesture, I answered it. Hello, Sarah. Jessica's voice was eerily calm, almost cheerful. I hear you've been having quite the morning. Jessica, where are you? Oh, I'm just taking care of some loose ends. You know how detail-oriented I am. There was a pause, and I could hear what sounded like papers rustling. I have to admit, I'm impressed. I didn't think you'd figure out the Morrison connection so quickly. Detective Martinez was frantically signaling his team to trace the call. It's over, Jessica. They have your fingerprints, the GPS records, everything. She laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Oh, Sarah. You still don't understand the game we're playing. See, I've spent the last 2 hours making some very interesting deposits into your bank account. Payments from a pawn shop downtown, the same one where Mrs. Morrison's missing silver just happened to turn up this morning. My blood turned to ice. Even with all the evidence against her, she was still trying to frame me. The beautiful thing about digital banking, Jessica continued, is how easy it is to make transactions look legitimate when you know someone's personal information. Which, as their concerned coworker, I naturally had access to. The line went dead, leaving me staring at Detective Martinez with growing horror. She'd just turned herself into the victim and me back into the prime suspect. Detective Martinez was already on his phone with the bank's fraud department before I could fully process what Jessica had just confessed to. But the damage was done. Even if we could prove the deposits were fraudulent, the optics were devastating. A pawn shop transaction linked to stolen goods, money appearing in my account at the exact moment I was trying to prove my innocence. How much? I asked, dreading the answer. $3,000, the detective said, hanging up. Deposited in 2 installments this morning, right around the time the Morrison silver turned up at Golden Dragon Pawn. My legs felt weak. $3,000 was exactly what someone might expect to get for high-end sterling silver pieces, not enough to retire on, but enough to make theft seem plausible for someone with financial problems. She's been planning this for weeks, I whispered. Maybe months. That's when Richard called back, and this time he sounded like a man watching his life's work crumble in real time. Sarah, I just got off the phone with the Henderson corporate office. They're canceling their contract with us, effective immediately. Apparently, someone called them this morning claiming to be from the Better Business Bureau, warning them about ongoing criminal investigations into our company. Detective Martinez grabbed the phone. Mr. Patterson, this is Detective Martinez. I need you to preserve any records of that call, phone numbers, times, exactly what was said. Detective, with respect, I don't care about preserving evidence right now. I care about the fact that 3 more clients have called in the past hour asking if their events are safe with us. My company is hemorrhaging money and reputation by the minute. I could hear the accusation building in his voice, even through the phone. Richard had given me 48 hours to clear my name, but Jessica was systematically destroying Prestige Catering faster than I could expose her scheme. Richard, I said, you have to know this isn't me. Look at the timeline, I've been trying to prove my innocence while someone has been making very professional phone calls using inside knowledge about our client base, he interrupted. Sarah, the bank records show money in your account. The pawn shop has surveillance footage of someone who matches your general description. And now my business is collapsing because of investigations that somehow center around you. The doubt in his voice was like a knife between my ribs. Even with everything we'd uncovered about Jessica's pattern of thefts, the manufactured evidence against me was overwhelming. Mr. Patterson, Detective Martinez interjected, I understand your position, but we have strong reason to believe Ms. Chen is being framed by Jessica Webb. The fingerprint evidence at the Morrison home, the suspicious IT access. Detective, I respect your investigation, but I have a business to protect. Sarah, I'm sorry, but I have to officially terminate your employment. The board of directors is meeting in an hour, and if I don't show decisive action, we'll lose our liability insurance. The line went dead, leaving me officially unemployed and under criminal investigation simultaneously. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from Jessica, asterisk 36 hours left and you're already fired. Imagine what I can accomplish with the time remaining. Asterisk. Detective Martinez saw the message and his jaw tightened. She's monitoring our progress somehow. Every move we make, she's 3 steps ahead with a countermove. That's when I realized the horrible truth. Jessica wasn't just covering her tracks anymore. She was systematically destroying my entire life as a final insurance policy. Even if the police eventually proved her guilt, I'd be left with no job, no reputation, and a criminal investigation that would follow me forever. And she was just getting started. My phone started ringing nonstop after Richard's termination call. First it was my landlord, someone had called claiming to be from the police, warning him about a dangerous tenant involved in organized theft. Then my insurance company, my credit card company, even my gym membership. Jessica was systematically contacting every aspect of my life, poisoning each connection with carefully crafted lies. She's got access to more than just our work system, I told Detective Martinez, watching another call come in from my dentist's office. She knows my personal information, my accounts, everything. That's when Maria called again, but this time she was crying. Sarah, they fired me too. Richard said I was potentially compromised because we're friends. Jessica told him I might have been helping you plan the thefts, that we'd been working together. Her voice cracked. I've got a mortgage, Sarah. I can't lose this job. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. Jessica wasn't just destroying me, she was taking down anyone in her path to ensure no one would be left to corroborate my story or defend my character. Maria, I'm so sorry. There's something else. I was cleaning out my desk when I overheard Jessica talking to Richard about additional security concerns. She's claiming you still have access to client files through some kind of remote connection, that you're planning to steal more information or plant evidence. Detective Martinez looked up sharply from his computer. That's impossible. We verified your system access was revoked. Unless she's the one with continued access, I said, the realization dawning. She could be logging in under my credentials, making it look like I'm still actively accessing files. My laptop. I'd left it at home when I came to the police station, and Jessica had sent that photo of my apartment building. If she'd somehow gotten into my apartment, she could have cloned my login information or installed remote access software. Detective, I need to get to my apartment. If she's been inside. Absolutely not. If Jessica Webb has been monitoring your home, walking into that apartment could be dangerous. He was already radioing for backup. We'll send a unit to check it out. But even as he spoke, my phone buzzed with a new text from Jessica, asterisk check your email. You're going to want to see what your neighbors think of you now. Asterisk. With trembling fingers, I opened my email to find a message forwarded from my apartment building's community forum. The subject line read, warning, criminal activity in building. The post, written under a fake resident account, detailed my arrest at the Peninsula Hotel, complete with grainy photos that looked like they'd been taken through the hotel's windows. But the photos had been edited, they showed me in handcuffs that I'd never worn, being led away by security guards who looked more like police officers. She's photoshopped evidence, I whispered, showing Detective Martinez the images. She's creating fake documentation of crimes that never happened. The post had already received dozens of responses from concerned neighbors, many demanding that building management take action. Someone had replied with my apartment number, suggesting people keep their children away from the 3rd floor. Detective Martinez was studying the metadata on the photos when his radio crackled with an update from the unit checking my apartment. Detective, we've got a problem here. The apartment door was left open, and there are signs of a search. But it's weird, nothing valuable seems to be missing. Just papers scattered around, like someone was looking for specific documents. My stomach dropped. My tax returns, bank statements, personal records, she's been collecting information to create more fake evidence. There's something else, the officer continued. We found what looks like drug paraphernalia in the bedroom. Small bags, scales, the works. Looks like it was placed recently. Jessica's final move. If the theft charges didn't stick, if the bank fraud investigation cleared me, she'd fall back on drug possession. She was building multiple criminal narratives to ensure that even if one failed, another would destroy my credibility permanently. Detective Martinez, I said, my voice barely steady, she's not just framing me for theft anymore. She's constructing an entire criminal identity. And with each hour that passes, she's making it more elaborate and harder to disprove. He was already coordinating with multiple units, but I could see the concern in his eyes. Jessica had transformed from a workplace nemesis into something much more dangerous, someone willing to destroy lives with methodical precision. And I was running out of time to stop her. The unit searching my apartment found something else that made my blood run cold, a handwritten confession in what looked remarkably like my handwriting, detailing how I'd been stealing from clients for months to pay off gambling debts. It was sitting on my kitchen counter like a suicide note, except instead of ending my life, it was designed to end any hope I had of proving my innocence. She's been practicing my handwriting, I told Detective Martinez, staring at the photo the officers had sent. Look at the letter formations, they're close but not perfect. The G in gambling loop's too wide, and I never dot my I's with circles. But even as I pointed out the inconsistencies, I knew how this would look to a jury. A handwritten confession, drug paraphernalia, bank deposits from a pawn shop dealing in stolen goods. Jessica had built a comprehensive criminal profile that would be nearly impossible to dismantle. My phone rang again. This time it was my mother, and her voice was shaking. Sarah, I just had 2 police officers at my door asking about your gambling problem and whether you'd asked me for money recently. What on earth is happening? The room spun around me. Jessica hadn't just attacked my professional life, she was systematically destroying my family relationships, making sure I'd have no support system left when everything collapsed. Mom, I need you to listen very carefully. Do not talk to anyone else who calls asking about me, not even if they say they're police. Ask for badge numbers and call Detective Martinez directly to verify. I gave her his contact information, watching his expression grow grimmer as he realized the scope of Jessica's campaign. Sarah Elizabeth, you're scaring me. The officers said something about organized theft, that you might be part of some larger criminal network. It's all lies, Mom. Every single word. But I need you to document everything, what time they came, what they asked, what they looked like. Can you do that for me? After I hung up, Detective Martinez shook his head slowly. Impersonating police officers is a federal offense. She's escalating beyond anything we've seen in the other cases. The other cases, I repeated, something clicking in my mind. Detective, what happened to the people she framed at the Fairmont and St. Regis? Did they ever clear their names? His silence was answer enough. One moved out of state, changed careers entirely. The other. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The other is still fighting the charges. Jessica's evidence was very thorough. The implication hit me like a freight train. Even when Jessica's victims were eventually exonerated, the damage was so extensive that their lives never recovered. She didn't just frame people, she professionally destroyed them so completely that proving innocence became meaningless. How long do I have before she's finished? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Before Detective Martinez could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent message. His face went pale as he read it. The Morrison family has hired a private investigator, he said slowly. Apparently, someone called them this morning claiming you'd made threats against Mrs. Morrison for ruining your career. They petitioned for a restraining order. My hand started shaking again. A restraining order would make me look dangerous and unstable, adding another layer to Jessica's carefully constructed narrative. Detective, she's going to keep escalating until there's nothing left of my life to destroy. And then she'll disappear and start over somewhere else, won't she? He nodded grimly. Unless we can find her first. But Jessica Webb has proven to be very, very good at staying 3 steps ahead. That's when my phone buzzed with one final text. Asterisk 24 hours left, Sarah. Hope you've enjoyed our game. Asterisk. The countdown wasn't to my 48-hour deadline with Richard anymore. It was to whatever Jessica had planned as her final move. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of escalating chaos. Detective Martinez had put me in protective custody at a downtown hotel, but even there, Jessica's reach seemed infinite. Room service arrived with meals I hadn't ordered, each one accompanied by handwritten notes and my forged signature claiming responsibility for various thefts. The hotel staff started looking at me like I was some kind of notorious criminal celebrity. At 2 a.m., Detective Martinez burst into my room with news that made my stomach drop to the floor. She's filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against Prestige Catering, he said, waving a legal document. Claims you and Richard conspired to frame her for thefts you committed, and that the company created a hostile work environment to cover up your crimes. I stared at the paperwork in disbelief. She sued the company she's been systematically destroying? It gets worse. She's also filed a police report claiming you've been stalking and harassing her. Says you've been sending threatening messages from fake accounts. He showed me printouts of text conversations I'd never seen before, messages that looked like they came from my phone number, filled with increasingly unhinged threats against Jessica. Those aren't from me, I said, but the words felt hollow. How many times had I said that in the past day? I know. But the technical evidence is sophisticated. Whoever's helping her has serious skills. They've spoofed your phone number, created fake timestamps, even manufactured location data that puts you near her apartment when these messages were allegedly sent. Whoever's helping her, the phrase hit me like lightning. Jessica was good, but this level of digital manipulation, the forged bank records, the system access, it required expertise beyond what one vindictive coworker could manage alone. Detective, what if she's not working alone? What if there's someone else involved, someone with technical skills? Before he could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number, but this time when I answered, it wasn't Jessica's voice. Ms. Chen? This is Dr. Amanda Richards from Mercy General Hospital. We have your coworker Jessica Webb here in our emergency room. She's been injured in what appears to be an assault, and she's claiming you attacked her. The room went silent except for the sound of my heart hammering against my ribs. Detective Martinez grabbed the phone and put it on speaker. Doctor, this is Detective Martinez with City Police. What are Ms. Webb's injuries? Facial bruising, defensive wounds on her hands, torn clothing. She's conscious and coherent, and she's insisting we call the media. Says she has an important statement to make about corporate corruption and workplace violence. I felt the walls closing in around me. Jessica had somehow injured herself and was about to go public with a story that would paint her as the victim of a violent criminal conspiracy. Every news outlet in the city would be running with her version of events within hours. "Doctor, we need to interview Ms. Webb immediately," Detective Martinez said. "And we need to secure any evidence, her clothing, photographs of the injuries, everything." But even as he spoke, I could hear voices in the background of the hospital call. Jessica was already talking to someone, probably a reporter she'd called before the medical staff. "Detective," the doctor continued, "there's something else. Ms. Webb is asking to speak with FBI agents specifically. She claims this involves federal crimes across multiple states, that she has evidence of an organized theft ring operating through catering companies." The phone call ended, leaving us staring at each other in the fluorescent-lit hotel room. Jessica's final move wasn't just destroying my reputation locally, she was taking this national, positioning herself as a whistleblower who'd uncovered a criminal conspiracy and been violently attacked for trying to expose it. "She's about to become the victim in a federal investigation," I whispered. "And I'm about to become the most wanted hospitality worker in America." Detective Martinez was already grabbing his coat. "We have maybe 6 hours before this story breaks nationwide. If we're going to prove she's been manipulating evidence, we need to find her accomplice now." But as news vans started pulling up outside the hotel, their satellite dishes gleaming under the streetlights, I realized we might already be too late. The news vans multiplied like a virus outside the hotel. By dawn, there were 8 of them, their satellite dishes pointed skyward like metal sunflowers seeking destruction instead of light. I watched from my 7th-floor window as reporters did live shots with the hotel in the background, probably describing me as a person of interest in what Jessica was now calling a multi-state theft ring. My phone had become unusable, every few minutes another call from a reporter, a lawyer offering to represent me, or someone claiming to have inside information about the case. I turned it to silent, but the constant vibration felt like Chinese water torture. Detective Martinez returned at 6 a.m. looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. "The FBI is officially involved," he said without preamble. "Jessica's convinced them that what we've been investigating is just the tip of an iceberg. She's claiming there are catering companies in 5 states running coordinated theft operations, using employee accusations to cover their tracks." I sank onto the hotel bed, feeling the weight of impossibility settling over me. She's not just framing me anymore. She's building an entire fictional criminal enterprise. It gets worse. The hospital released her at 4 a.m., and she immediately held a press conference in the parking lot. Said she'd been investigating the theft ring for months, gathering evidence, when you and Richard found out and ordered her beaten to silence her. He showed me his phone, where a news video was already racking up thousands of views. Jessica stood under the harsh glare of media lights, looking perfectly vulnerable with her facial bruises and torn blouse. She was describing how she'd risked everything to expose corporate corruption, how she'd been systematically intimidated and finally attacked for trying to protect future victims. "She's good," I admitted, watching her performance with sick admiration. "Look how she positions herself as the reluctant hero. She never directly accuses me, just says certain individuals and lets the reporters connect the dots." But something in the video nagged at me. Jessica's injuries looked real, but her body language was wrong. She kept glancing to the left, just off camera, like someone was coaching her responses. And when a reporter asked about specific evidence, she deferred to her legal counsel, who would be releasing documentation shortly. "Detective, who was with her at that press conference?" He replayed the video, and for just a moment, the camera angle widened enough to show a man in an expensive suit standing behind the media cluster. Tall, dark hair, holding what looked like a briefcase full of documents. "Enhance that," I said, pointing at the screen. The image was grainy, but something about the man's profile struck me as familiar. Then it hit me like a physical blow. "Marcus," I whispered. "What?" "Marcus Chen, our IT guy. The one who gave Jessica administrative access to the system." I grabbed Detective Martinez's arm. I thought his last name was just a coincidence, but look at him. Look at his bone structure, his height. They had the same build, the same facial shape. Understanding dawned in the detective's eyes. "Related? Has to be. Brother, cousin, something. That's how she's been so technically sophisticated, she's had inside help from day one." The pieces were falling together with horrifying clarity. He's been the one manipulating the digital evidence, the bank records, probably even helping her plan the whole thing. Detective Martinez was already on his radio, calling for information on Marcus Chen's background and family connections. But as he spoke, my hotel room phone rang, the landline that only the hotel staff should have known about. I answered it against my better judgment. "Sarah." It was Marcus's voice, calm and almost friendly. "I think it's time we talked." The sound of Marcus's voice on that hotel landline made my blood freeze. Detective Martinez immediately gestured for me to keep him talking while he signaled for a trace on the call. "How did you get this number?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sarah, I've had access to hotel reservation systems for years. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you understand how networks really work." His tone was conversational, almost casual. "Jessica told me you'd figured out we were related. I have to admit, I'm impressed it took you this long." Through the window, I could see more news vans arriving, their crews setting up equipment like they were preparing for a siege. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was trapped in a hotel room while the media waited outside to document my downfall, and the architect of my destruction was calling to chat. "Why?" I asked. "Why destroy my life? I barely knew you existed before this week." Marcus laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "This was never about you specifically, Sarah. You were just convenient. Jessica needed someone with the right access level, the right reputation, someone whose downfall would be believable. You fit the profile perfectly." Detective Martinez was frantically scribbling notes, coordinating with his team to track the call's origin. But Marcus continued talking, seemingly unconcerned about being traced. "The beautiful thing about the hospitality industry," he said, "is how much trust it operates on. Expensive items everywhere, minimal security, staff with unrestricted access to private spaces. It's been incredibly profitable for us." "Us?" I repeated, though the answer was becoming sickeningly clear. "Jessica and I have been running this operation for 3 years. 5 cities, dozens of venues, hundreds of thousands of dollars in merchandise. The key was always having a fall guy, someone to take the blame when things got too hot. His voice took on an almost academic tone, like he was explaining a research project. The frame jobs served two purposes. They eliminated any investigation into our activities, and they provided cover stories for our exits when we'd exhausted a market. My hands were shaking as the scope of their operation became clear. The Fairmont victim, the St. Regis case, those were all you? Among others. Jessica has a real talent for identifying the perfect target, someone isolated enough that their protests wouldn't be believed but credible enough that their supposed crimes would seem plausible. He paused, and I could hear typing in the background. You were actually one of our easier marks. Your promotion created natural resentment among the staff, and your lack of close personal relationships meant fewer people would defend you. The casual cruelty of that assessment hit me like a physical blow. They'd studied me, analyzed my weaknesses, planned my destruction with the same detachment someone might use to plan a vacation. But this feels different, I said, trying to keep him talking while Detective Martinez coordinated what looked like a major response outside. You're taking more risks, making it bigger than the other cases. Ah, you noticed that. Marcus's tone shifted, becoming more serious. Unfortunately, Detective Martinez's investigation has been more thorough than we anticipated. We need something dramatic enough to discredit any evidence he might have gathered. A federal case involving organized crime accomplishes that nicely. Through the hotel room's other window, I could see police cars arriving without sirens, positioning themselves around the building's perimeter. Whatever they discovered about Marcus's location had prompted immediate action. The hospital, I said suddenly. Jessica's injuries, you did that to her, didn't you? Your own sister? Cousin, actually. And yes, though did that is a strong phrase. She volunteered for the necessary evidence. Jessica understands that sometimes you have to sacrifice for the larger plan. His voice was getting more distant, like he was moving away from the phone. Unfortunately, Sarah, this is where our conversation ends. But don't worry, in a few hours, none of this will matter anymore. The line went dead, leaving me staring at Detective Martinez with growing terror. Because if Marcus was willing to assault his own cousin to maintain their scheme, what were they planning for me? The police found Marcus and Jessica 3 hours later at a storage unit across town, frantically shredding documents and wiping hard drives. When Detective Martinez called to tell me, I was still barricaded in that hotel room, watching news crews speculate about my violent criminal network on every channel. We got them, he said simply. All of it, the stolen merchandise, forged documents, computer equipment with your cloned credentials, even a detailed spreadsheet of their previous victims across 5 states. I couldn't speak for a moment, the relief hitting me like a physical wave. But Sarah, Detective Martinez continued, there's something else. When we searched the storage unit, we found preparations for something bigger. Fake identity documents, cash, travel itineraries. They were planning to disappear after destroying you completely. The final piece of their puzzle clicked into place. I hadn't just been a convenient scapegoat, I'd been their exit strategy. After framing me for a federal crime that would dominate news cycles for weeks, they would have vanished while law enforcement focused entirely on prosecuting their fictional criminal mastermind. 2 hours later, I sat in Detective Martinez's office watching Jessica's real confession through the one-way glass. Without Marcus there to coach her, and faced with overwhelming evidence, she'd crumbled completely. The competent, manipulative woman who'd orchestrated my destruction was gone, replaced by someone who looked small and desperate as she detailed 3 years of systematic theft and fraud. The Morrison heirloom pieces? Detective Martinez asked her. Storage Unit 247 on Riverside Drive. Along with the Fairmont crystal and the St. Regis collection. Jessica's voice was barely audible. We kept everything that was too distinctive to sell immediately. And the bank deposits into Sarah Chen's account? Marcus hacked her online banking after I got her personal information from HR files. We needed the money trail to look authentic. She looked up at the camera, seeming to realize I might be watching. She never touched a penny of it. By evening, the news narrative had completely reversed. The same reporters who'd been describing me as a dangerous criminal were now breathlessly covering the elaborate multi-state fraud scheme that had been exposed. My phone rang constantly, but now the calls were from news outlets wanting interviews with the innocent victim who helped crack the case. Richard called just before midnight, his voice heavy with exhaustion and guilt. Sarah, I owe you an apology that I can never adequately express. The board has voted unanimously to offer you your position back, with a promotion to regional manager and full compensation for everything you've been through. I was quiet for a long moment, processing the offer. A week ago, getting my job back would have been my only goal. Now it felt almost anticlimactic. Richard, I appreciate the offer, but I think I'm ready for something different. Because sitting in that hotel room, watching my life get systematically destroyed, had clarified something important. I was tired of working for other people's dreams. The catering industry had taught me everything I needed to know about logistics, client management, and crisis response. But it had also shown me how easily careers could be weaponized against you. Within 6 months, I'd used the settlement money from prestigious insurance company to launch my own event planning business. My first clients were the 3 previous victims of Jessica and Marcus's scheme, people who understood exactly what it meant to have your reputation destroyed and rebuilt. The Henderson Corporation, whose contract Jessica had sabotaged, became my anchor client after their CEO read about the case in Forbes. Apparently, there was significant value in hiring someone who'd been tested under the most extreme circumstances possible and emerged with their integrity intact. Jessica got 12 years in federal prison. Marcus got 15. And me? I got my life back, better than it was before. Some games are worth winning, even when you never wanted to play.